So let's start. Hello. Excuse me 1 second.
Yes, we can start.
Hello, yes, you can start.
Cool. So you can see the screen, right? I'm audible?
Yes.
Cool, great. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining our Tableau user group Qatar meetup. My name is Mrudhul, one of the leader in Qatar user group, and I will be your host today. Usually user group events conducts in an on-premise location, as we all know, but due to the current COVID circumstances, we couldn't. I wish next time we can meet in person. For all your information, our plan is to run at least 3 to 4 user groups events in a year moving forward, hoping to get all your supports on that. Now let's move on. Before we kickstart, I would like to take you through certain guidelines. All attendees are muted throughout the session. In case you have any questions, you can use Q&A session. For general comments, you can use chat option. The session would be recorded and shared in the Tableau community. So we host user group events, and the mission of it is to meet like-minded people and learn from each other. It's also a great platform for networking session and helps to connect with every Tableau data users in Qatar. Then we can share ideas and innovate. Myself and Mahfouz are leading the Qatar user group. The group was inactive in this region for some time, and we will be making it active from this first session onwards. Mahfouz is the key person who would be taking the group to the next level for sure. He is the Tableau ambassador, Tableau public feature owner, and Viz Insight Pro in Tableau community, active member and former top 5 contributors around the world in Tableau forum. Unfortunately, Mahfouz is not attending today since he is busy with a strategic project for a government this quarter. Next time, we will try to get his presence. Today, we have amazing speakers lined up. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce Perttu and Sreejith. Perttu has got 15 years of experience in analytics, 15 years, well, and mainly in the banking domain. He is a Tableau champion and was a customer speaker in our first Tableau breakfast event conducted by Tableau in Qatar last year. Welcome, Perttu. Sreejith is a Tableau Analytics Pro, helped the top managements of Fortune 500 clients around the globe. He trained more than 300 Tableau business users in the region. Plus, he is conducting classes on Tableau and analytics in multiple international universities. Welcome, Sri. This is our overview of our agenda today. In the first session, Perttu would be speaking about how Tableau has helped QFCRA in analytics to achieve their business objectives quicker and smarter. In the second session, Sreejith would be delivering highlights on the new capabilities of Tableau in the latest releases, and followed by Q&A session where you can shoot out your queries and get answered. Later, we would be closing the session. So let's start. Over to you, Perttu.
Sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mrudhul. Also, I'm very excited that we have the first user group session for Tableau now in place. And I do wish that we really build a community because we all know Tableau keeps on evolving. The ways of performing analysis and visual analytics are improving. People are being creative, coming up with new ways all the time. So I truly hope that we, all of us on this call, keep in touch. So I'm on LinkedIn, for example, so please feel free to connect and share your ideas with me, and I will be very happy to discuss mine. My presentation will be about the Qatar Financial Center Regulatory Authorities deployment of Tableau as our core analytical interface. Can you now see my slide? Mrudhul, could you confirm?
Yeah, I can see it. You can
You
share.
can see it.
Go to
Okay, excellent.
full mode.
All right, so I will just start the slide deck then.
Perfect.
Yeah, the usual disclaimer, of course, is valid. So the views I will be giving to you might not necessarily be the views of the organization. I am a key person driving forward the analytical transformation in the RA, and I always wish I try to be a couple of steps ahead of also what we do exactly today, because we need to have a vision and a path to go. So not necessarily everything I will be saying to you are validated views, are views we have recorded anywhere and form a formal strategy as of now. But I'm keen to share my evolving thinking as we go, because that way I can get others to influence my thinking as well. So the regulatory authority. So in the past, for the 15 years Mrudhul mentioned, I've been working in regulators and central banks in different countries. I'm from Finland. I started in the Bank of Finland, then the Finnish regulator. Then I was in the ECB in Frankfurt for a little while. Then I moved to the UK to work for the Financial Supervision Authority, FSA, before moving to the Bank of England. I had a short stint in Deloitte in banking analytics, but then I went back to the Bank of England and then eventually joined the RA here early 2019. On this slide, so just to give you a brief idea of what we do as supervisors. Financial regulation supervision, you have two key roles. So there's, first of all, there's the policy making. There's one half of our organization that are setting rules for financial institutions. What can they do, what they can't do with especially their client money. And then my end of the floor is supervision, where we then monitor on day-to-day basis the compliance of the firms against these rules. These couple of sentences I've actually just Googled. They are from the EU. They are statements from the EU about what's the role. I thought this was just quite good and matches well what we do and what globally the regulators would be doing. So there's regulation, there's the rules, then there's the supervision, the oversight of the firms and the compliance. Everything I will be saying in the next slides will be is true today. There's nothing new in that. But I just wanted to show this slide because the business of regulation is also, or supervision is also going to be subject of transformation. Not all of this has started here, but these are the key mega trends I can see elsewhere and globally. So for one thing, the authorization and becoming a regulated financial institution. We only used to have a very limited set of institutions. You could be a bank if you met certain requirements. You could be an insurance company if you met certain requirements, or asset manager, and so on. Now in the times of fintech, there's a lot of innovation in the field, and companies that would not have been considered as regulated financial institutions, or let's say business models that are completely new. And one challenge in there is that we do recognize that this field should be led to innovate. But then at the same time, the rules we have are so tightly specified for the traditional business models, and they are so complicated that it has been seen globally that we actually, as part of the way of operation, we need to consider having so-called regulatory sandboxes in place, which mean that the firms can actually test business models with real customers without in which case the emphasis is not that much in meeting certain complicated rules beforehand, but showing in operation that the business model works and that it doesn't lead into outcomes to customers or financial stability that wouldn't be desired. So an element of trial and error has entered this field, which has traditionally been very heavily sort of rules-based, and that you do the analysis first and then decide on that basis whether the firm can operate or not. But you kind of give them at least a small scale opportunity, but in a controlled environment where the supervisor can be more on top of what happens. Also part of this movement is that I think there's movement from that compliance monitoring to risk-based supervision. So instead of looking at compliance of individual rules, we actually start trying to get an idea of the overall risk, certain activity, certain patterns in the marketplace put on us and the system. In the past, or traditionally, we were very heavily focusing on credit risk as the basis of the main part of the risk, and enough capital to meet that credit risk, market risk for those firms who do trading. But then these days, also this is changing due to the changes in technology and the new business model. So liquidity is more important, anti-money laundering is more important, cyber risk is hugely important. So all of a sudden we are in a place where a bank might have all the capital it will ever need, but one hacker will destroy everything. And we need to therefore change the ways we assess the riskiness. And going to the same space, we can't necessarily use the traditional tightly defined, predefined indicators and trust that everything important will be captured by them. But instead, we need to look at the whole marketplace and the transactions there and identify patterns, anomalies, whether this was a balance sheet or certain trend, transactions, whatever. And from sort of point in time financial statement analysis, we need to move to looking into networks. We need to be able to identify those patterns from natural language as well. We need to be able to use machine learning to extract those patterns, because there's otherwise too much information. We need to be able to be more forward-looking. We need to be able to forecast to the future more. We need to be able to stress test. And this also then means that the data that traditionally has been rather high level, balance sheet, income statement, risk data, highly aggregated. There's a movement globally towards more and more granular data. That supervisor can't perform his duties unless you have very detailed granular data, even going all the way to transactional. In my previous job in the Bank of England, we were dealing with mortgage data that was loan level. So we analyzed every single mortgage loan in the UK, and that is millions of loans with lots of features, each of them. And in the same vein, it's not enough anymore to have annual statements. You need to be able to look at daily or even real-time data or near real-time data going forward. So all this is changing in the background, but still, even before, we were knowledge workers. So the key of what we do is that we receive data, and we need to turn that into information, and then finally into knowledge. And that knowledge then needs to turn into decisions that help the firms and the financial system to survive. Data can be defined as facts without any context. And as soon as we are talking about information or analysis, then context will be extremely important. One number floating in the air doesn't tell anything. You need to know where the other is. Is this going up or down? What kind of other patterns there are? And then in the end, knowledge is something that usually lives in an individual's head. And it's hard to share, especially we're talking about so-called tacit knowledge, which is hidden, silent information we all accumulate and carry with us. That is based on our early experience, expertise, memory, and this is where the key person risk lives for organization like ours, which is heavily based on knowledge workers. One person leaving, there can be a huge loss of enterprise level knowledge. And even if the person didn't leave, we are losing time and effort every day because we are not able to share that information that effectively. And before that, in the value chain, in processing data and creating information using useful contexts, we are still using all too much time. We are still all too repetitive in our processes, and individuals are doing those in silos, departments are doing those in silos, and over time also, we often do the same thing over and over again when new data comes in. So information, the difference to data is that now we have a context for the facts and it's somehow relevant. So it needs to be relevant to our job. And there's some sort of a context around it that tells us more than just a number floating in the air. A simple example. We start from data. We have a number, 6,793. Then, well, I can tell you at this point that this is about COVID deaths. This data is a bleak topic, but happened to be a data set I had readily available, and which I don't have any issues sharing with you. So ended up going with this little example. So a little more context to this is that this is in Europe, 6,793 deaths. Adding a bit more context, and we can see that Europe is actually very much of an outlier within the different continents, and that this is actually the accumulated number on the 6th of May this year. And we can then add further context to it to give to analyze the important significance of this early information. Are the others catching up, or was it just a temporary thing that Europe was as much higher than the others? But sadly, it would seem from the picture that none of the other continents is getting anywhere near, and Europe is even accelerating away once again. And the process here, or how the value add is increased here, is that in the lower stage of turning data into information, we start to understand relations between things. And then the more value add and closer to knowledge we turn the analysis, the closer of understanding patterns this process becomes. And as I said, the problem is that traditionally in organizations like ours, people were very much doing these by themselves. Excel has been a great self-service analysis toolkit from the early 90s, and it has really liberated everyone to do very powerful things, and even doing VBA coding by those who could. And we shouldn't take that liberty away from people. There's always been bad examples of company BI systems that are too inclusive and limited, so that which means that if there's one single thing you can't do in that workflow, from raw data to your final analysis, your final presentation, you will be looking for the export to Excel button and finish your work, or from actually using the BI system just as a data query tool, nothing else. So it's very important that the tool that we cater throughout the value chain. And it's also important that individuals wouldn't be replicating something either they did before already or someone else did before. And ideally, we would like that there's not only connection between people and time, but that also we can accumulate information, and especially the knowledge at the company level, so that we are not just flatlining or losing knowledge when someone is leaving, but instead there would be an accumulated wealth of knowledge that really is part of the organization, although it's all sourced from individual experts. So we can roughly split our process of becoming better in this regard to 3 phases. So first of all, we want to improve data access and reduce the time it takes to manipulate data. Secondly, we want to make it easier to add context and changing context. It's, as I said about the old-fashioned way of using indicators, static indicators, they can add context, but then it might not always be the right context. So it needs to be easy to make new kind of comparisons, identify new types of patterns. And then the phase 3, which is by far the hardest, then is the acquiring of individuals' knowledge and sharing it amongst teams, and also retaining it, so that even if a person moved to another job inside or outside of the organization, or retired, we wouldn't be facing a huge loss of expertise. Some of the features in Tableau specifically that are helping us in achieving all this. I still keep on being amazed by the power of the data extracts, and how from the old Excel days, or almost anything you had available in your desktop, or even the corporate BI tools, usually the experience was that they were really slow in the organizations I worked. And then all of a sudden you had Tableau that enabled you to have even tens of millions of records on your desktop, and slicing and dicing them like in no latency. And that is still amazing. And of course, the hyper extract is much faster than the original extract. And then, and especially now in terms of the server, it's great that people having a self-service tool such as Tableau, and then having the server as the central place of storing the most recent data, means that everyone's even ad hoc analysis is always based on the same and the latest data sets. So many organizations are led by dead Excels that are extracted from the systems, manipulated manually in Excel, and then sent in emails. And no one can keep track on those and the quality and so forth. And then thirdly, doing at least when you do exploratory analysis and sort of early analysis, you're looking to see what was going on in this data. It's just so handy that you can control click and select different items, whether they were firms or line items or whatever, and create groups and rename them into whatever you want, or then using the set action for the same purpose. But the most where Tableau currently is giving us value is in the information creation space, and it is really and this is really the phase where you need to turn individual numbers into information, and where you do it by adding context somehow. First of all, Tableau was so quick to slice and dice, and it kind of, because you have visual memory, when you quickly turn things back and forth, that gives you context. As such, you remember that, oh, if I only filter to this firm, it's actually relatively smaller than, quite a lot smaller in this regard to the whole sector aggregate. So just being able to do this quickly gives you that context. Then, of course, the calculated fields and the table calculations let you to do very quick further analysis or creating indicators that might or might not matter. And you can trial and see, can you capture, can you reduce the dimensionality? Can you capture some patterns by following your instinct and your having hypothesis about what there might be in the data? So the underlying data often, it doesn't capture exactly the breakdowns that might be relevant today. And you might need to do, be creative and have hypotheses like maybe there's certain kind of new activity in the marketplace is not captured cleanly in our data, but maybe if I put together that and that field and compare that to the total, it should give me an idea of whether this is going up as the rumor says, or as I have read from the newspapers, or as I'm fearing might be happening. And you can quickly test that and see if that really is true. And then, of course, the actions in dashboards having different elements to filter or highlight each other, and highlighting individual items, even if there was many lines, for example, line chart, having the whole bunch visible can be even useful if you can highlight into one, focus on one entity at a time. And then it was a big thing when the level of detail calculations came, because now suddenly you could actually freely choose the level of granularity of your context. So beforehand, and with all the before mentioned techniques, you still were applying the same filters to all of the data at the same time. But now you could actually have a monitor and indicator for one firm, and then having another line next to it, which is the peer group average or the total sector or whatever, giving you that context that yes, indeed, this firm is going up much faster than the others. And then building on that, and really my recent favorite have been the sets and parameter actions, in which you can give the user with the set filtering actions, you can give the user the ability of actually custom choosing the entities, elements that go into that comparison, that context. You can click things in and out, and that's really amazing. It's not just then the level of detail is only in the hands of the user of the Tableau desktop, who will then still dictate what the level of context will be. But with the set actions, you can give that context creation to the user. And the same goes to the parameter actions. So what we have done in the recent past, for example, is that you can have, we often have stacked bar charts of things such as balance sheets. And there's often many levels in the balance sheet. So you have interest income, Then you have below that, you have interest income by different products. And below that, you can have another breakdown. And using the earlier features in Tableau, you could only break down things at the same time for all of the elements. But now you can, throughout the balance sheet, but now you can actually enable that drilling down by the component. So you can drill in further detail within interest income, but leave everything else at the level you had initially. And again, this is very powerful in letting users to create that context they need for that analysis at hand. Then the more to the future, and something where we have done the least so far, is that in order to really start capturing the knowledge, so it will be more and more important in organizations like ours, that when that piece of information is presented to the expert on a dashboard, we also want to utilize the insight created in the head of the expert and share that as far as possible. Use that, recycle, use that as far as possible. Some things in the Tableau server already help us to take this journey. So it's possible to bookmark things for yourself. You can then share things, those bookmarks, and they can be filtered. So you can have specific cut of the data open, and you can tell others that, have a look at this. To me, with my expertise, this tells X, Y, and Z. And that's already expertise shared within the community. But then what I'm looking forward to implement the most in the next periods is then using things such as the very new Analytics Extensions API, which, for example, enables you to create applications that from the calculated fields directly speak to your analytical server, such as Python server, and bring back forecasts or clustering or whatever added information about the patterns in the, let's say, the very data points the user selected. But then also this same mechanism can be used for training an algorithm. So if we, instead of making it just a one-way street of letting people to say, okay, choose the data points you are interested of, and then the algorithm comes back with a forecast or clustering for the items. If we know that the user thought that these selected data points are somehow really important for this analysis, that again becomes actually a way of getting something out of their brain, getting an insight of what are they thinking, what is an expert thinking when they see this data set. And this should be captured by the algorithms. This should be taken in as learning, as a supervised learning process. So we should turn all the analytics into active learning processes where the underlying machinery learns of every single action, every single choice, either sort of explicitly, we actually ask people to show us where the outliers are, point me to the outliers, please. Or then just implicitly looking at how does an expert use the data differently to someone who has only started? What can we learn from the patterns of using the data and provide the new starter the data, but augment it with the expertise of the seasoned expert? These are really then the next frontier. And I'm glad to see that Tableau is increasingly going to this space as well. So just to sum up, in the future, then I hope we have minimized any fruitless repetition in pulling in data, manipulating it, creating those contexts for specific use cases, but creating something which is more can be used over time, can be used for different purposes in different situations. And I hope that we are in a place where we can extract knowledge that is generated in the heads of the experts and embed this into the whole analytical process so that the experts themselves, because I find when I do banking analysis, I find myself repeating the same steps just because there's no memory in the systems. I hope to be able to be helped my earlier own insights to avoid that and to build on it rather than start from scratch every time. But especially powerful this becomes when we can actually share things between the expertise within teams and over time when different people are on the matter. So then we can really start talking about accumulating enterprise knowledge, not just having individuals who come and go. I stop it there. Happy to take questions. Back to you, Mrudhul.
Hi, Perttu, thank you so much. We really enjoyed, and there were so many tips, suggestions, use case scenarios. It can help us to improve in our analytic strategy approaches for many of us here. Just a reminder all, if you have any questions, post it in Q&A session and it will be answered at the end of the session. I think we are on time. It's already 12:45, so I think it's better we can start with the other session. Yeah, Perttu. Now please help me welcome Sreejith to show some cool features in Tableau. Hi Sri, over to you.
Thank you, Mrudhul. Hi everyone, I'm just going to share my screen so that we can get started. Mrudhul, could you please confirm whether you can see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Okay, one of the key things that I noticed, maybe as an analyst, the analyst mind in me that noticed in Perttu's presentation is that they're using set actions, parameter actions, and so on to get more insights from the data. It is very interesting. Not a lot of people have actually started using that or haven't started exploring that and started taking the full capability or start using the full capability of Tableau yet. So it is great to know that some of you have actually started, and Perttu, that makes you one of the champions, one of the reasons why you are a champion in the region when it comes to Tableau. Okay, my presentation is going to be just about a few new features in Tableau. Okay, as users of Tableau, you would know there are quite a lot of things that Tableau brings in, and this is going to be just a quick session on touching up some of those features. I'd also like to remind you about the Tableau conference that happened earlier this month, and also I have a screen grab of a couple of new features that might be coming up in the next versions. Here, as as an innovative company, Tableau has brought in new features every year, and even this year, Tableau has brought in almost 100 new features. Yeah, I mean, even for me, it was a little difficult to believe that there are 100 new features, but yes, there are. We might not have started using all of those, and what I see as a consultant is that for many companies, it is a little difficult to upgrade from time to time. So some of us are still using an older version. If you're using Tableau Server Online, which is the Tableau Online, then obviously it gets upgraded to the latest version very quickly, or whenever the new version is released. So I will be using Tableau Online, which is running on the latest version 2020.3. And then I have a few features from Tableau Desktop, Tableau Server that is online, and also Tableau Prep. Okay. As we have more than 100, we'll not be able to touch upon all of those, just maybe 5, 6 or so is all I have. Okay. At any point, if you're not clear of any of the features that I'm showing, you can feel free to stop me there or just write your questions in the Q&A session, and we'll try to answer it as soon as I can. I'm going to show you some of the very key differences or key features that has come in. One is relationships. This is connecting different data sources in Tableau Desktop without joining them. It is a very similar concept. Instead of joins, they will be creating logical relationships between these between different data sets. Now, how I intend to do is we'll go to Tableau and we will see how it works. One by one, we'll try to see these features. Okay, so I'll be switching between different screens. So if you are not able to see any of those, please let me know. Now we are looking at Tableau Desktop. Let's go and connect to data. I'm using the same sample Superstore data here. All right, we have these files, orders, people, and returns. I'm not sure if you are familiar with it. The returns has got multiple records, and you can see here, the only thing that you need to remember is that there are duplicate records. Order ID is repeating. And the orders, as you can see, it's the full data set. It has got all the details and orders and everything. Now let's first look only at orders. I'm going to sheet 1. Let's go to the sales. The sales is $2.2 million. Okay, interesting. Traditionally, what we would do is join with returns, right? And maybe left join is what we'll do based on inner join. So this is good. It seems like a very good way of doing things. When I go to sheet 1, you can see instead of 2.2 million, it's like 2.9 million. That is simply because the number of records got added. Duplicate records are added here. If you look at returned, the value of the return sales, you can see here the non-returned is 2.1 and returned is 784,000, which seems quite high, and it is not the case. Now, this is how we would traditionally do. Let me show you how relationships would work. I select the first table just as usual, and then when I connect, by default, Tableau does not join it, it creates a relationship. You can see this one, the orange line, that's called a noodle in Tableau terms. It links. You can see there is no join. It simply links based on order IDs. You can see the output here is separate. There is one table for orders and there's another one for returns. It's not combining it to create a single table. Let's look at the sales value. It has gone back to the original, 2.2 million. That is correct. You can see here the returned is also, it is changed. It is 180, which is the correct value. It was showing 784,000 earlier because of the duplicate records. Despite not joining and having only relationships or links, if you're familiar with the concept of data blending, you could say it is an advanced version of data blending. It is very similar. The connection is made, but the combining of dataset is done only when you build the visualization. You can see data blending can be different across different sheets. It is a very similar concept. It does not show any difference here. You have orders and returns. It works as if it's a part of the same file. That is the first feature, which is about relationships. Okay. You're seeing my full screen, so I do not know if you have raised any questions yet. So let me just quickly check that. Maybe I'll come back to that in a minute. The next feature is metrics. Okay. Metrics is an important feature for maybe for the top management. There are times that we would want to keep track of certain key elements or key measures but to have them all in one place is very difficult. There could be, let's assume that there are 10 different, you're heading a company and you have 10 different dashboards, say one from sales, operations, and marketing, and finance, and so on. And then there is one key element that you want to select from each of those. Ideally, what you would do, or what we would as developers or generating the report, what we would do is add all the KPIs, all the data sources into one dashboard, which makes it very, very heavy. We might be looking at just 10 different KPIs, but we'll have 10 different data sources and it takes too long to load. Sometimes we use that as the landing page itself. So all of those trouble is gone now. Using Tableau on the server or on online, you can keep track of your key metrics. I will quickly show you how that can be done. I've logged in to my Tableau server, and then let me open this dashboard, a very generic dashboard. In this case, what I'm going to do is select one measure, anything that I want, and that will be the one that I want to keep monitoring on a regular basis. Yeah, it has to happen. It has to be slow when we present, right? It's almost always like that. Anyway, let's look at this. We have different measures, and we can see, maybe let's take Texas as an example. I want to know what is the profit ratio of Texas. You can see at overall level, it is 15%. And I want to keep monitoring it. I want to see whether it is changing after day by day, month on month, whenever the data refreshes. What I would do is just click on that. What is it that I want to analyze? What is it that I want to monitor? So select that. There's an option here called metrics. This is new. If compared to the previous versions, this option wasn't there in the previous versions. So let's select metrics. And it says, okay, this is the latitude of Texas. No, that's not what I want. I'm going to name this, say, profit ratio of Texas. This is what I want to monitor. It is showing latitude because there are latitude, longitude, and the profit ratio in it. You can choose what you want. Okay, it is profit ratio, select it. So it is 15.12. I have the option to select which project I want this in. So I'm going to add it in the same sample 2, which is where I have the dashboard as well, and then simply create. You can see it has been created. Let's go back to the folder. There you go. You have the project, the profit ratio of Texas there. Similarly, you can add as many measures as you want from different dashboards within the folder or any other folders, and it will all be displayed here. In addition, it will also keep a track of the timeline. If the data gets refreshed on a regular basis, you can see what was the number after every single refresh. To me, that's quite useful. Very, very useful, actually. You can see if you want to share it with other users, you can do that in just one click. At a very high level, this is quite useful, but for each dashboard, if you want, even without having to open anything, you just go to the folder, you have what you need. And then only if it is increasing or decreasing, then you have to go to a specific dashboard and get to the details. So it makes it much easier to find the information that we want. That is metrics. Next is set controls. There are two things when it comes to the set controls or actions. One, the set action itself has been modified. You now using set actions, you can add new values or remove values from a set. That is mostly like an obvious addition. Now, set controls is a slightly different concept. What it helps is for the end users to include or exclude values from a set. For example, when you were developing a dashboard, we created like 10 states added to one set. And then now if you want to modify, The end users cannot modify, they can only filter. I will explain that with an example here. Going back to the same data that we have just created, let's build a visualization of state level sales. Obviously, we can see this. Sales is like this. I'm going to create a set here, and I select a few of those, maybe California, Georgia, Maryland, Washington. Okay, let's take Texas. Some of these things. I'm creating this as a state set. Okay, what would we do? We just add it to the filter, and it is filtered only for those. You can see only those places. If we add it to a dashboard, what generally happens is for this, we would have set filters. These are the filters that we have, right? This is what the option was earlier. The end user will be able to remove anything from the set, but they'll not be able to add anything further to it. This has been modified using set controls. Okay. Here you have the option of showing everything, and the set can be added. New fields can be added to it, or new values can be added from the same field. This has got quite a lot of potential. In fact, I have selected the sales, total sales of the set, right? And then I add that as the total value here. This is the total sales, 851,000. It changes not just on the sheet, but it changes everywhere. So you can see at the high level and the low and this level, you can just update it. It's a very similar concept. It's almost exactly the same thing that they have included in the set actions. So this is a manual way of doing things. When you look at it in detail, there could be quite a lot of additional functionalities that this can bring in, especially when you want to drill down to a particular thing. Using set actions, you can just, select it. I wouldn't have the time to do all of this right now. So just telling you, if you select this, it's going to drill down to that particular set, that particular state and city and so on. All right. So that's with the set controls. The other one is in operator. If you look at the impact that it brings in to the overall at a very high level, it is very limited. But it is about the effort that we have to put in and the consistency and the clarity of the information that we have when we use. What is in operator? It's just like a sum or average. They have added just one more formula in this. I don't know if I can call it formula, but yeah, an operation. Earlier, what we would use to write is say selected states. I'm using select states always. So if state equals Texas or state equals California, then keep. This is how the formula used to be, right? If this is Texas or California, what if we have a lot more? We just keep writing it again and again, right? We usually copy this, paste it, and say Washington, and so on. So it's been a little difficult, especially when it comes to say sometimes for financial purposes, we will have a set of accounts we want to group and some of those things. So instead of going by this old method, we have the option of using an in operator now. It is very simple. If state in, this is the only difference. If state in, this is the condition, and then you can add, say, Texas, come on, California, and so on. Then keep. This is my condition. So instead of writing it again and again, you can have it just one time. You can add it all here. To be honest, I've worked on some complex calculations, and I wish they had it. And there were times that we would just discuss, it's a common thing, why is it not there? Right. Now, when we are working on more complex visualizations, it is necessary that they have this. And on a timely basis, Tableau keeps adding new features and new operations. Another example is the advanced analytics, the predictive model formulas that Tableau has brought in here. Okay, there are several additional formulas, say for example, spatial conditions. So these are all new formulas and new operations that Tableau keeps bringing in whenever there is a need, okay, when there is enough sufficient requirement from the users. So that's the key, one of the key things. Right back to database is from prep. The adoption of prep, what I see from my clients, was a little difficult because they feel that, okay, it cannot hold the data somewhere. So that's why Tableau has brought in, and hopefully they will bring in more sooner, that after you build a prep workflow, the output used to be only as a CSV or right back to the Tableau server or as a hyperfile. So instead, or not instead, in addition to that, file and publish data source, there is a database table as well. So this way you can write back to SQL Server, MySQL, these 7 different servers you can write back. Okay, I believe I read somewhere that Tableau is going to add more later on, but for now, to get started with, the most common ones are already included. If you have the right permissions, you can build your prep workflow, you can cleanse your data, do all the transformation that you need, and then just write it back to the database. And from there, the end users will use it. Obviously, with addition of the data management and server management add-on, you can automate prep workflows as well, which makes it a seamless integration. One of the last ones is the subscription on extract refresh, which is quite a good feature for me. Earlier, we used to subscribe. We used to mention or get the subscriptions. Let's go back here. We used to have subscriptions based on a time that, or it's basically that, based on a schedule that you have, right? On the selected schedule, we can have it at any level, say on a daily basis, hourly basis, and you can choose if it is daily, which are the days that you want it, and so on. However, what if the data was not getting refreshed? The last week's data, I'm getting the same report again this week. Or what if the data gets refreshed in between? Say Sunday is my frequency, but the data got refreshed on a Tuesday. I'll not know of it, right? That's gone. Now, instead of a selected schedule, you have the option when data refreshes. So it triggers a subscription when the data refresh is complete, which is quite useful. We don't have to worry about whether the data is refreshed or not, because it will be triggered only when the data gets refreshed. This again on the server and online, I feel like very, very useful. There are a couple more bonus points. I'll probably not cover in detail all of these. You have the option now on the server, without having to open it on the desktop. As an explorer, you can open directly here. So in this case, you can see the options are very limited. I'm not an admin. I'm just an explorer who can publish. You have the option to upload workbook. So I can upload it from my computer. Say this one. Okay, it's already there. That's fine. And I can upload. So this way, all the explorers, even if the explorer get the file on their email, they can use it. Okay. The other one is the filtering. It is a very smaller function. It's like when you drag and drop the filter, you get the full pop-up. Earlier, there were various limitations, but now you get the full pop-up and you can filter those very easily. The exports on web, I think I just replaced the file. All right. So if you go here, you have this option. When you, let me just go there, delete it, add it once again. You have this download option. You can add it, and there is an option to download as PDF, image, or PowerPoint. But now there is an option for cross-tab as well. What does it do? It downloads the data, but it doesn't work here on the desktop. It is only after you publish. You will have the option to choose which file you want. Okay, I'm just going to overwrite once again. Which dataset you want, in the sense from which sheet you want to download the data. It makes it even easier for the end user to select the data and then just say, okay, yeah, this is not working fine. Or maybe I want to look into the data exactly because it doesn't seem to be right. They can download the data easily in just one click and just, analyze it further. Please bear with me for a minute here. All right, done. There you go. You have the option to download cross-tab. And when I select it, it says whether you want to select it from the map or any of those, and CSV or Excel, and then just download. Quite easy. I remember there was an extension that we had created. It is in Tableau extension gallery even now, because the end user, the clients wanted to have this option, and it was not a feature earlier. So now it is integrated and it makes it a lot easier for us. The last one, which doesn't make a lot of difference, but another way of making things much easier for everyone, is this option. You have the search bar, which is always on, but you also have the option to filter it only based on, say, calculations. It will give you only the calculations that you have created. Sometimes when the data gets too complex, this can be very, very useful. That's all about the new features in Tableau 2020.2 and 3. Some of the things, I don't know if you had a chance to attend Tableau conference. It was for 3 days. It was online and free for everyone. If you had a chance to attend it, you would have seen quite a lot of new features that are coming in Tableau. Salesforce has acquired Tableau, we all know that, and because of this partnership, they have a lot of new features that are coming in, which is a collaboration between them. Obviously, Einstein Analytics will be a part of Tableau going forward. And then there are a few other things as well. I managed to get a screen grab of some of those things. So this, I'm sorry for the bad quality of the screenshot. You can see here on the notification pane, you'll not just get simple notification, you get this visually detailed notification saying that, okay, this person has shared this, and then you get a screenshot of those and so on. So you can decide whether you want to check it or not. Another option is the personal space. And during this COVID situation, everyone needs a lot of personal space, a lot more than what it used to be. Here, that's what Tableau has created as a personal space, is you can publish this. These are my content, you can publish it, and nobody else will have access to it. It is just yours, unless you share it with end users. So this way you can have your draft versions, work in progress versions, and everything here on the server itself, and make sure that it can be tested properly and nobody else will use it by mistake. The last one is the Tableau Prep. I don't know how many of you are users of Tableau Prep. Going forward, Tableau Prep will be on the browser. You can see the full functionality of the Prep will be on the web browser, and you can use it without having to install Prep. To me, that's a game changer. Adoption will be much higher. So that's it from my side. Everything that I wanted to discuss is done. My name is Sreejith Surendran, and you can probably maybe connect on LinkedIn or somewhere. Or if you have questions, you can just reach out to me on my email address as well. Thank you,
Great.
everyone, for listening.
Sri.
Yes, Mrudhul.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Sri. All the features you have shown were relevant and insightful for us. I think it's better we can start the Q&A session. I would be allowing the users. Yes, Sri, I can allow the users. I can unmute them. And
Yes, absolutely.
Once again. Yeah, perfect. Hi, also, if you have any queries, you can talk directly to our speakers. Hello.
Yes, Mrudhul, we can hear you.
Yeah, I think don't have any questions at the moment because I checked in the Q&A session and in the chat session. So I think it's better we can close this. Yeah. So for the attendees, if you have any queries, suggestions on upcoming events, you can share your thoughts in the LinkedIn page. We have a Tableau user Qatar group LinkedIn page. Sri and Perttu, if you have any inputs to give to our attendees, you can.
Yep. There's a question from Satish. What is the normal server configuration for Tableau?
Cool.
Satish, there are two ways. One is a minimum configuration and there is a recommended configuration. The minimum, I'm not going to the specifics, but the minimum configuration is if you want to test Tableau. And then recommended configuration is, when you roll out, this is the recommendation from Tableau. However, depending on the use case, the number of users, the data set that you're planning to do, the number of refreshes that you will have, the concurrent users, and so on, there are several metrics. Based on that, the configuration would change. You can actually get in touch.
The question, sorry to
Yes,
interrupt. I just want to get an idea about what is a normal business company. Let's say 10,000 plus employees company is running on Tableau server. What would be the optimum configuration to have? Let's say I am having around 1 TB of data to be put in the Tableau.
Yeah.
What is what maximum configuration you came across? That would be the best question.
The maximum configuration.
Yeah.
Okay. It would be a difficult question to answer, actually. We do have a few people, maybe from the client side itself, if someone is aware. Because, see, it's not a very direct question. Even if you ask Tableau directly there, they will not be able to answer because there are 10,000 people, yes, 1 TB data, but how often are these data sets connected? How many dashboards are there? And how many concurrent users are you expecting? There are quite a lot of metrics that we have to consider before deciding on the configuration. So it's not just simply the data set or simply the number of users. If Mrudhul, if that is okay, you can reach out to Satish, get the details, and then probably we can help you answer those questions, Satish.
Yeah, sure.
Noted, Sri. Yeah, we'll connect with you soon after the session, Satish.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. So is there any other questions from the attendees? You can unmute yourself and talk.
In fact, let's hope that there will be a lot more people attending the next event. Mrudhul,
Yeah.
how many registrations did we have?
Since it's our first event, we at least secured around 50 registrations, and moving forward for the next session, we would be expecting more number of attendees. To kickstart with, I think this is a good number of registrations we received.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's it, right? We can wind up. So once again, thank you all for joining us today. Special thanks to the speakers, Perttu and Sreejith. Really appreciate your time and efforts. So overall, amazing first virtual meetup in Qatar. You can stay connected with us on LinkedIn and get updates on the next sessions, relevant Tableau post. With that, we close the session today. Thank you to all the participants. See you next time. Have a great day and bye.